Hello, how are you doing today? Good, that's what I like to hear. I'm doing all right. Thank you for asking. What is the need now for me to make this video? First of all, I don't need to make this video. There is a ton of information already on this subject. The subject is myocarditis. And if you have had the opportunity to use the internet, watch TV, listen to the news, then there is hardly a chance that you would have missed hearing this word. Rather, the chances are that you have heard this word over and over again in the last couple of years at least. If you have been associated with the medical profession, this is not a new word for you. But even then, the chances that you have heard this word a lot more in the last 2 years or so has increased. Not only in the clinical or in the hospital setting, but like others who are not associated with the medical profession, simply by accessing the internet or watching television, you've heard or come across this word myocarditis. The difference one is expected to note is that if you have been associated with the medical profession as a nurse or a doctor or a student, then this is not a new word for you. You have known about myocarditis for a long time. For those who have not been associated with the medical profession, chances are this was a new word for you. Myocarditis or pericarditis. So when you first came across these words, did you come across some sensationalism associated with this word? Did you come across misinformation in association with myocarditis? And how would you have verified if what you are listening to or watching is actually correct information or is it misinformation? Depending on your circle of associates, upon your closed group, you would have come across either information that was well researched and linked to the source that would let you know what the details are, or you could have come across information presented in a dramatic and sensational manner, which definitely was designed to pull your opinion in a certain direction. And because this has persisted even till now, that is why, despite not having a personal need to make this video, I'm still making one. And this is as much a part of my own research as it would be with the intention to be of assistance to any who watch this video. Having said all that, let me now go to the pages that I will be referring to, and the links for all those pages would be in the video description. But even before getting to those pages, and let me tell you in advance, there are 4 pages that I will be referring to. Simply, on the search engine itself, when I typed in the words, or rather the word myocarditis, a very clean presentation opened up, which is divided into 4 tabs. It says Overview, Symptoms, Diagnosis, and Treatment. And then below that, on Microsoft Bing are the links to the pages that I will be referring to. Except for Wikipedia, I opened the top links that were available to me. So I'm going to go to the very first link. This is from Johns Hopkins Medicine. And this article is entitled Myocarditis. This page is a very simple page, neatly organized, and it goes into some treatment options, but even then, the page continues to be quite simple. So let me begin by reading what this article says is the definition of what is myocarditis. It says myocarditis occurs when the heart muscle, myocardium, becomes inflamed. Inflammation occurs when your body's immune system responds to infections, for example. Myocarditis can be caused by viral infections or more systemic inflammatory conditions, such as autoimmune disorders. In severe cases of myocarditis, the heart muscle weakens and cannot pump blood effectively to other parts of your body. And right there it mentions there are several types of myocarditis. Some examples include, it mentions acute myocarditis. Acute myocarditis describes relatively recent or fast onset of myocarditis and is usually caused by a viral infection. Acute myocarditis can develop suddenly and symptoms may resolve rapidly as well. Chronic myocarditis is the second type. It says chronic myocarditis is when it takes longer than usual to treat the disease or when symptoms reappear after experiencing the condition. This can occur due to more general inflammatory conditions, such as autoimmune disorders, in which your immune system attacks healthy cells and tissue in your body. And the third type that they mention is lymphocytic myocarditis. Lymphocytic myocarditis is a rare form of myocarditis that can result in hospitalization for acute care. It occurs when white blood cells, lymphocytes, enter and cause inflammation of the heart muscle. This condition can occur after a virus. Now, at this point, having read what I did, you would be thinking, why haven't they mentioned vaccination as a cause for myocarditis? Well, that is the reason I'm referring to more than one page. This page is very good. It mentions also the causes. So here, as you read in more detail, it says myocarditis causes. So it mentions common cold, influenza, or COVID-19, bacteria, fungus, or parasites can lead to myocardial inflammation. It mentions autoimmune diseases such as lupus, sarcoidosis, and others can also cause myocarditis because the immune system can attack any organ in the body, including the heart, causing inflammation. Drugs or other environmental or toxic exposures can lead to myocarditis as well. So when it mentions drugs or other environmental or toxic exposures, you could include in drugs, vaccines. We will know more about this in the other references. Under treatment, they mentioned 4 different options. There is angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor, ACE inhibitor, that is. Or they give the other option as angiotensin receptor blockers, ARBs. They mention beta blockers. Third option is diuretics. And the fourth option is corticosteroids. And they give a little description with each of these bullet points. When you visit the link, you'll be able to see it for yourself. And they mentioned recovery time. As we read earlier, that there are 3 types that are mentioned on this page, so recovery time would be in accord with what particular type of myocarditis it is and what is the treatment that is given in accord with the severity of the condition. The other page that I am now looking at is from the Cleveland Clinic, another very good website. They also define what myocarditis is. In the section where they define it, they also link to endocarditis and pericarditis, and they give a brief explanation of what it is. Endocarditis affects the inner lining of your heart valves and chambers. Pericarditis affects the sac around your heart. They mention 4 types. They say rare types of myocarditis include lymphocytic, giant cell, fulminant, and eosinophilic myocarditis. They mention who is at risk. If you are a young adult, but then they also say, however, all ages can get it. The second risk factor is you are male, but women can get it too. Third, they mention your body doesn't react well to inflammation. Although you don't inherit myocarditis, your genes have an influence on how your body handles inflammation and how likely you are to get myocarditis. And the fourth thing they mention, you drink more alcohol than your healthcare provider recommends. People who are undergoing certain medical treatments, they mention those, number 1, dialysis, implanted heart devices, radiation, treatments for heart problems, and having a central venous line. Medical problems that may put a person at a higher risk of getting myocarditis, diabetes, HIV/AIDS, skin injuries or infections, cancer treated with certain medicines, eating disorders, end-stage kidney disease, and having a chest injury. This page goes into a bit more detail. For instance, when it talks about what causes myocarditis, and it talks about viral infections, it mentions what viruses those may be. It mentions flu, herpes virus 6, adenovirus, Coxsackie virus, parvovirus B19, and it mentions SARS-CoV-2, COVID-19. As in the earlier page, it mentions other reasons, bacteria, fungi, rarely it says, Chagas disease, rheumatic fever, autoimmune diseases like rheumatoid arthritis or lupus, things you are exposed to such as radiation or heavy metals. The medicines that can be a cause for myocarditis are listed here. Medicines for the heart, the whole category, antidepressants, medicines for seizures, antibiotics, medicines for weight loss, diuretics, benzodiazepines, medicines for psychiatric problems. All these are mentioned. Let's go over the symptoms of myocarditis, because earlier we did not. The symptoms are shortness of breath, tiredness, fever, chest pain, heart palpitations, pain in your abdomen, abnormal heart rhythm. That should be one to be noted, of course. Fainting, no appetite, feeling weak, swollen legs or feet, being unable to exercise. Now, of course, it's best to look at a collection of symptoms. And that is why they say, how is the diagnosis confirmed? So there are tests that are done. MRI, endomyocardial biopsy, positron emission tomography scan, chest x-ray, cardiac catheterization, ECG or EKG, echocardiogram, and blood tests. Which tests would a doctor require or are possible would depend on the patient, the doctor, and the clinic. Does myocarditis go away? If you have a mild case, it may go away on its own. If not, your provider could order medicines for you. The other page that I have opened is from the Mayo Clinic. Same information that has been covered on this page also, but they go into a little more detail about which viruses, which bacteria, which parasites, and what fungal infections can cause myocarditis. They also go into a bit more detail about the medications that could be the cause or the causative agent. They mention drugs used for cancer treatment, antibiotics, penicillin, sulfonamide drugs, some anti-seizure medications, and cocaine. So all these are mentioned. And some of these I am looking at, and I might have to say that I have never seen these names before. There is a Wegener's granulomatosis. Wegener's granulomatosis. And there is a Takayasu's arteritis. These are inflammatory diseases and could lead to myocarditis. So already you would have an idea when you look at all this information that there is a lot of context, a lot of other information that is important in the context of myocarditis. But if you look at social networking sites like Facebook and Twitter, chances are that you look at the word myocarditis and you see it in the context of mRNA vaccines for COVID-19, and hardly anything else would be mentioned. This much information should be sufficient to at least give you the idea that there can be a lot of other causes, and there are a lot of other causes. It's not a new condition that suddenly came up, but yes, we hear this a lot more. Now, this last page that I'm looking at is from the NIH. This page was published on July the 1st, 2022. And if you don't visit any other page, I would recommend that you visit this excellent page. The title of the page is Q&A, COVID-19 Vaccines and Myocarditis. And right at the outset, they say, benefits of COVID-19 vaccines outweigh a very small risk of heart complications. When you go further down on this page, about the middle of the page, you will find a graphic. And I have shared this graphic on Twitter, and it was met with skepticism and disbelief. What the graphic shows, I'll read to you, but I will put the graphic in the video. It says chance of getting myocarditis in 2019 was 1.3 per 100,000 people. Chance of having myocarditis if hospitalized for COVID-19. That increased from 1.3 per 100,000 to 226 per 100,000. They're talking about being infected with COVID-19 and being hospitalized. The next portion of the graphic is chance of getting myocarditis after mRNA vaccination for COVID-19. And the chances are only 2 per 100,000. I'll also read from this page where they address the severity of myocarditis. The difference between being infected and the myocarditis that comes due to vaccination. The FDA has always known from the very beginning that this is a risk associated with mRNA vaccines, but how small that risk is compared to infection. And the FDA welcomed people to report, people, including patients, doctors, family members, to report if there was a case of myocarditis or pericarditis. The last part of this graphic shows chance of being struck by lightning in your lifetime, 7 per 100,000 people. So this event can happen to 7 out of 100,000 people in their lifetime. That is a higher possibility than having myocarditis from the mRNA vaccination for COVID-19. So this subheading, some people are unsure about getting a COVID-19 vaccine because of the risk of side effects, including myocarditis. Can you put these risks in perspective? And Flegg answers, the bottom line is this. The benefits of getting vaccinated markedly outweigh the very small risk of vaccine-related myocarditis. Vaccination prevents most hospitalizations and deaths due to COVID-19. It's clear that vaccination can protect you from myocarditis by protecting you from COVID-19 infection. It reads further on, most people, 95%, who develop myocarditis after receiving a COVID-19 mRNA vaccine have only mild symptoms that go away within a few days. Vaccine-linked myocarditis is less likely to cause lingering heart problems than myocarditis due to COVID-19 illness. This page is very good. Someone asked me, how did they arrive at these numbers? What are the studies? What is the basis on which they could say that 226 per 100,000 of those who are hospitalized for COVID-19 have a chance of having myocarditis, whereas for the vaccine, it's only 2 per 100,000. And as we read, the symptoms and the severity of myocarditis is milder, and it resolves a lot easier compared to the natural infection. If you scroll down on this page and you go down, there are 12 sources that are mentioned. And the first source that they mention is Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. COVID-19 vaccinations in the United States, accessed June 29, 2022 from, and they have the data that came into the CDC from COVID Data Tracker. So in real time, they were always looking at this data and they were analyzing and verifying, making the distinction between the infection and myocarditis caused by vaccination. And then there are a number of other references, 11 others, that you can look at if you want to, on the basis of which this Q&A is arranged. I think of the pages that I've seen in the British Medical Journal or in the Lancet or a number of other websites, this website, by putting that very simple infographic, brings the point home. And since it's coming from the NIH, this would be the authority. And they are the most accountable for putting out this information. Not that other peer-reviewed journals are not, but this is from the government, and they're expected to put out top-class information. So I encourage you to visit this page. I encourage you to look at the different references, the sources which they have consulted, and of course, you're most welcome to look at any source which gives you reliable information, not sensationalism or rumors or anecdotes. If you simply do a search on a search engine, you are going to find reliable information very easily. And that should suffice and give you a very clear idea, giving you the context for this one word, myocarditis, what it is, what causes it, who is at risk, how do they know it is myocarditis or pericarditis, how do they treat it, what are the risk factors, who is more at risk. All these questions are easily answered if you take the time. Now, I have taken so far less than 30 minutes. And if I had done this 2 years ago, no matter what information I came across, I would already have a background to compare it against. And there are people who still have not done this much work, even if this is important to them. Even those who are in the medical profession are part of those who spread rumors and misinformation. But to be correctly informed is to be forearmed. And you and I can do it. It's very easy. And it's for this reason that I am making this video, and I will be posting this to YouTube. I do hope it will help you as much as it has helped me. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your company. I'll see you another time. Goodbye and take care.